Hello chess friends and welcome to your Out of Chess channel and welcome back to the TCEC Season 27 Premier Division that you can follow now on the official and amazing TCEC website. After the snooze fest in the World Chess Championship match between Dingler and Ngukish in the round 5, I really needed my daily dose of AI chess. We haven't seen really a great game today in the World Chess Championship match, so that's why I've decided to share now again a sharp, brilliant attacker, brutal attacking gameplay by Stockfish, and I think this game fits into the immortal category. What Stockfish produced here was really amazing. First of all, a spectacular piece sacrifice, and then such an amazing Zugzwang, such an amazing paralyzed position Stockfish created against Black. So put your seatbelts on. I hope I can improve your day today with this amazing gameplay by Stockfish 17. So let's see now what happened with White. The fish opened with move d4, knight to f6 here by Berserk, c4. After e6, knight to c3, we have now bishop to b4, the amazing Nimzo-Indian Defense. Stockfish continues now with an interesting Kmoch Variation. With the move f3 is of course trying to break and enter somehow in the center of the board. We have now c5, d5, advancing the pawn, and now after move d6, Stockfish continues now with e4. And now the last move that was prearranged by the organizer was this line, bishop takes c3, which is in some lines perfectly fine. The positional idea by Black, and many times when you play the Nimzo-Indian Defense with Black, you're giving up the bishop for knight, but the positional idea is of course that we're trying to create this messed up pawn structure on the queen side. The c and c3 pawn and the c4 pawn are of course targets. There are of course weaknesses in White's position, and White continues the game with the bishop pair, which is again not maybe even the optimal bishop pair, because first of all this bishop is perfectly fine, but this bishop is a little bit blocked by its own pawn structure. So I would say it's, I think, a playable game for both sides. White should be better here, but of course White has to be careful about the strategic disadvantages here on the queen side. Here Berserk continued immediately with queen to a5, hitting the pawn. Stockfish protects it, Berserk secures the king. We have bishop to d2, protecting now the pawn, which of course makes the life of the knight easier. Now you can move the knight and maybe start also to develop here with the bishop. Knight from b2 d7, now comes this idea, and now knight to e5. f4 here by Stockfish, and Berserk retreats now to g6, bishop to e2. And here what Black should not do is of course take. In none of these lines I think Black will simplify the game here for White, because if you do that, then you have just improved the pawn structure of White. You basically relied on this weak pawn structure on the queen side. Now when you trade off the pawns, you just improve the position. So this line is of course not good here for Black. After bishop to e2, Berserk keeps it calm and plays now a solid rook to e8, which is of course indirectly hitting the king on e8. Queen to c2 by the fish, and now e5, which is again a good move by Black. When you play with the knights on the board against the bishop pair, then you want to keep the files locked. You want to create a block position. So now again with this idea, White should not also take, because then the knight comes on a beautiful square. You have an e4 backward pawn, and then afterwards I think Black could coordinate somehow the attack against this weakness. So this is not working. So that's why after e5, Stockfish continues with f5. We have knight to f4, and now castling. You cannot take of course bishop to f4. This would be a huge blunder, because after e takes f4, the knight is under fire, and now this pawn will be taken. So that's why castling by the fish, bishop to d7, and now knight to e2 could be played, but it's still, I think, nothing spectacular. The knight to e2, and White continues now the pressure with g4, bishop to d7. Now after move a4, preventing the move b5 here by Black. Now finally Berserk took now the knight, the bishop here with the knight on e2. So we have now knight takes e2, and okay, we could say now this is maybe an opposite colored bishop's middle game, which could of course reach the endgame stage, and then it should be a draw, because it's very hard to win this opposite color bishop's endgames. But so far it's really far away from an endgame. We have to also mention here White has a space advantage. White has a clear attacking idea on this side of the board, g4, g5, h4, and similar stuff. White will for sure get his attack here on this side of the board. Meanwhile, Black could maybe try a counterplay here on the queen side, but I think it's a little bit too slow. Even if you break on the queen side, there's not something that could be dangerous on this side of the board. The kings are on the king side, so that's why I think white's attack on the king side should be much more dangerous than any black's progress here on the other side of the board. After knight to e2, h6 by Berserk. Stockfish continues now with queen to d3, fixes now here the position further of the pawns. King to f8, and now h3, preparing g4. Rook from a to b8, and now bishop to e1. And I wanted to show you that, again, as I mentioned, this queen side attack that could be possible with a6 is not working simply here because white's attack is too powerful. For instance, if black would have played a6, this wasn't playing the game. Look at this, then bishop to h4 is, I'm not saying immediately winning the game, but the game becomes really unpleasant for black. You're trying maybe knight to h7 to escape, and then f6, you're breaking through. And even if black plays the move g5 in this line, then you can even sacrifice the piece. That's the issue. See how powerful white's attack is, how slow actually black's attack is on the queen side. If you try to take g5, then the queen is coming here, and maybe you can try to get the king towards, again, a better score than queen to h5. You're trying maybe to escape queen to f7, and the game is, I think, over. Look at this, we can pick up the piece, nothing can be done. Even if you pick up the piece here with knight to g5, then we can play h4, kicking away the knight, and then the queen is coming here against the pawn on h6. Again, a devastating position here for black. So that's why after bishop to e1, Berserk notices the problem of this bishop to h4 move and plays again king to g8. The move, you see that loses a simple tempo here for black. Black already played with the king. Now Berserk again retreats to g8, but now this whole concept with bishop to h4 is not so dangerous. So Berserk played, I think, the only defensive idea, because now after knight to h7 you cannot really play f6 because it's now a different story. If you sacrifice the bishop now and include, like in the previous line, the queen into the attack, black can suddenly escape, and now queen to h5 of course can be met with rook to f8, and nothing can be done. You cannot include just the queen into the attack, so this should be a winning position for black. So great move so far also by black's, great defensive idea. So that's why after king to g8, Stockfish continues now with the calm queen to f3, prepares still this move g4. We have king to h8, bishop to d2, rook to g8, and now g4. Knight to h7, Stockfish continues the pressure as promised, and you see black's attack on the queen side really never happened. Queen to a6, attacking now the pawn, and Stockfish doesn't want to lose immediately here the pawns on the queen side. Stockfish keeps it solid on this side of the board, but slowly and surely pushes the pawns on the king side. We have now the move g6, a good defensive move here by black, trying to do something here, trying to search for a clarification. And we have to also mention, if white is not careful enough, then the g file could be open, and also the king could be endangered on g1. We have now king to f2, and let's see now options here for black. White escaped, of course, from the g file attack. That was very dangerous, but now black doesn't have so many options. If black starts to push the pawns here with g5, then after h takes g5 and maybe knight to g5, then this rook is coming into the game, and actually white is destroying black's defense here. It's simply not a good position anymore for black. Even if you try g takes f5 to create maybe something here again on the g file, then after g takes f5, again the pawn on h6 is weak. Again, a much better position here for white. So black has a tough time now to defend the king. So after king to f2, that's why h5 here by Berserk. Now white should not take with g takes h5, because after g takes f5, then e takes f5 and rook to g4 creates now too many weaknesses in white's position. The engine says here it's an equal game now for both sides, but I would not love to play this game from white perspective anymore, for sure. I would love to play in this position more with the black pieces. Look at this, h4, h5 weak, f5 weak, c4, c3 weak, even a4 is weak. Every pawn on the board almost here by white is weak. So from a strategic endgame point of view, I think this is not a good game here for white. Although, as I said, the evaluation you see is equal, but really not a good continuation. So that's why for king to f2, h5, Stockfish pushes now the pawn to g5. Again, g takes f5 doesn't bring you so much, because after e takes f5, this is a position that black actually tries to avoid, because now the pawns are rolling, the pawns are connected, and they can create, of course, some madness against black's king. Now comes f6, and now we have here knight to g3, which is a good defensive move, but here Berserk plays again the optimal choice. Rook to f8 puts now more pressure against the king on f2, and now Stockfish plays an amazing idea. Stockfish plays now a powerful king to g2. The king was already on the g file, escaped to the f file. Now the king is again on the g file, and Stockfish is waiting here for a clarification of this pawn storm that's going on, of this really collision of pawns here on the 5th and 6th rank. What's going to happen here? So let's see again options for black. If black in any of this line plays something like g takes f5, and after e takes f5, maybe you can try, I don't know, f takes g5, h takes g5, knight to g5 doesn't bring you so much, because again the rook is coming through into the attack through the h file, and maybe you can try to pick up this one. But now rook to h5 first of all solves all of the tactical problems, and now you pick up the piece. You wouldn't want to play, of course, knight to f5 because you're running into some tactics here in this previous line. You don't want to play, of course, knight to f5 because then the g file could be open. But of course, with rook to h5, knight to h7, it's game over. Even if you skip here to g7, then again rook to g5 is simply winning the game here for white. This is not working, so that's why from rook to f8 and king to g2, a brilliant move that Stockfish played, Berserk continues now with a solid bishop to e8. Connect now, everything keeps now all the pieces glued together, compact. The king should be fine here on the king side. But now Stockfish comes up with a mean plan. Now the real fun starts. So far it was, I would say, a strategic battle. It was, I would say, really a nice positional game with many opportunities for white and for black. But now we see the tactical beast, Stockfish 17. Stockfish plays first of all queen to e2. We have now b6, rook to f2, f takes g5. It seems so that now finally black is opening up some files, but now Stockfish plays after h takes g5 and h4, an attack against the knight. Stockfish comes up with a brilliant plan with an amazing rook to h1. Great counterplay, allows here even Berserk to pick up the pawn on pick up the knight on g3. But now after king takes g3, Stockfish created now really some madness here on the h file. If you play g takes f5, this is not bringing you anything, because after e takes f5, again this is a position that black is trying to avoid. These two connected pass pawns on the 5th rank, maybe they could be advanced even to the 6th rank. g6 is a huge threat in some lines. First of all, of course, white should maybe secure the king somewhere here, but in the later stage of the game the position could really collapse here for black. So that's why after king takes g3, queen to b7, Berserk realizes that it could have some problems here by around this h7 square where the knight is, and Stockfish continues now, of course, with rook to h2. We have now rook to g7. Berserk protects now everything, and so far Stockfish is down a piece, but has now this massive attack with an amazing f6, and this move forces now this rook to come on f7, and you see the bishop is not controlling anymore the g6 square, which is now a new weakness in black's camp. Stockfish continues now with rook to h6, and Berserk is again forced to play a passive move, rook to g8. And this is the beauty, I think, of the game. Look at this, how paralyzed, how neutralized black's pieces are all over the place. They're really not playing actively. The queen can maybe move somewhere, but Stockfish has here also different brilliant attacking idea in mind, because after rook to a1 that Stockfish is playing, let's see options if you just, I don't know, try to hold the position. I'm showing you now this line because many of us wouldn't recognize really a nice attacking idea that white has prepared here. After rook to a1, I just wanted to show you if you try to repeat moves, which seems in some lines maybe even like a logical idea. You realize that you have some problems and you're trying to stay connected with this rook to the knight on h7, and with this rook connected, of course, to the g6 square. Let's see now what happens if black repeats just moves with the rook. I'm showing you this line because here you see an amazing tactical idea that white could prepare. After rook to c7, bishop to f2, the idea is that white will build here this battery with the queen and the bishop, and now after a couple more moves you can even sacrifice the bishop. This line is very important because this theme, this motif will be present now till the end of the game as a really huge threat. this line is of course not something that Berserk played, but after d takes e5, look at this, queen to e5, there is now a huge threat of f7, and even if you try to cover this one, then rook takes h7, and then after something like king to h7, rook to h1, checkmate. And even if you try rook takes h7, then again with the same pattern, f7, you have to cover now with this rook, and then we have the promotion, and again it would be a beautiful checkmate. This is very important because this is now the main attacking motif that black has to also worry about. Stockfish of course plays now different line, and of course Berserk doesn't repeat moves with the rooks. The Berserk is trying now to play the move bishop to d7, but now suddenly the bishop is again not connected to the g6 pawn, which is now huge difference. Again, the rook is overloaded to the defense of the g6 pawn. Stockfish continues now with the plan, queen to h2, again trying to play something like king to f3, bishop to e1, bishop to g3, or something else, and then here play this tactic with bishop to e5. We have now bishop to c8. We have now, even if you play, as we said, bishop to e8, this attacking motif would be then present. So after queen to h2, bishop to c8, Stockfish again builds this battery on the h file, and now king to f3. What Stockfish is trying to do here is to get the king on d3, first of all, to build sort of a house for the king. The king would be perfectly fine on d3, and then try this idea, bishop to e2, bishop to g3, and then bishop takes e5 followed with queen to e5. This is the main progressive idea. We have now bishop to a6 attacking now the pawns. Stockfish is first of all defending the pawns. Nothing spectacular so far. Bishop to c8. We have now queen to king to e3, queen to g4, and now queen to h2. And the issue for black is here that you cannot even simplify the game. Even if you try, I don't know, queen to g5, king to d3, you're trying maybe, I don't know, to play something like this, then you lose the queen. If you move, of course, the queen somewhere, then you're getting destroyed here on the h file. Even if you try maybe in some lines to trade off the queens, which seems also reasonable because you're simplifying the game, you're getting this queens traded off the board. But now after queen to f4 and e takes f4, you don't even pick up the pawn immediately with your king. You just pick it up later with your bishop, and now when the move comes with bishop to d6, the position is collapsing. Again here for black, e5, e6 will come, the pawns are rolling again, the pawns are mobile. If in any of these lines this rook is moved somewhere, then the g6 pawn is falling. So suddenly I think in some lines 3-4 pawns would storm simply towards black's king, so these lines are also not working. So after queen to h2, that's why queen to d7. Again, Berserk has to retreat. Stockfish continues now with queen to f2, queen to b7, rook to h4, queen to c7, and now slowly but surely Stockfish goes around and tries this attacking motif that we have talked about earlier. Queen to d7, queen to h2. We have now queen to b7, and now bishop to g3. You see the tension here already. Bishop to e5 is coming somehow into the game. Queen to c7. Stockfish again plays first of all king to a2, bishop to a6, and now king to d3. First of all, calm moves, quiet moves, improving moves, and then when the time is right, then we can strike with the tactic. Bishop to c8, king to e3, and if you try again, maybe in some lines, as we mentioned, to play this idea to stay somehow connected to the 7th rank, now you see bishop to e5 is working, but in a different way. After d takes e5, that could happen, then you play a beautiful d6. Oh, look at this. This would be epic. This wasn't played again in the game, but I really wanted to show this incredible lines. To play d6, if queen to d6 happens, then this one is collapsing, of course. Then you get checkmated on the h file. If you play rook to d6, then again with the same pattern, rook to h7. If you step back with the queen, then queen to e5. That's the motif that we have seen earlier. Then after something like rook to f7, we have this tactic: rook takes h7, rook takes h7, f7, rook to g7, and again the promotion. Game over here for black. Really wild stuff. So king to e3, again bishop to e5 is suddenly coming. Here Berserk continues with a6, king to e2, and now b5 here by Berserk. Even if you try bishop to b7, then again this motif is working. Bishop to e5, d takes e5, and d6, as we saw, is simply winning the game. So after king to e2, black is in sort of a Zugzwang. Black has to play suddenly a move. Black really doesn't have any better move. If this rook is moving, of course, then we see bishop to e5. Again, it's working. If this rook moves, then a rook to g6 is going to happen. So black is paralyzed. Black's pieces are simply out of game. So that's why after king to e2 b5, Stockfish takes, Berserk takes, Stockfish takes. Also here, the issue is, of course, that the queen can never leave the defense of the 7th rank, because Stockfish still has this powerful battery on the h file. We have now queen to d7. Stockfish improves now the position of the king. Again, queen to b5 is not working. Rook to e8, and now bishop to e1. Rook to g8, c4. Slowly but surely, again, Stockfish is just squeezing the position against black. Black is really paralyzed, neutralized. Bishop to b7, bishop to c3. Stockfish builds now a similar tactic like we have seen before. Now the bishop is just not on g3, it's just on c3. But again, bishop to e5 is a huge threat. So if you try something like, I don't know, rook to a8 to somehow include the pieces into the attack, then rook to g6 is working. So you may be trying to attack this one, but now the queen will be connected. You're trying to step back, and now after rook to h6 is g6. This is game over. I don't know, you pick up here this one, and then here g takes f7 is working. So in none of these lines this is working. So even if you try, I don't know, here instead of rook to g6 to play the move bishop to d5, then rook to h6 again, with the idea to play g6. If you try bishop to a8 somehow to just repeat moves, I don't know, without messing up further your position on the king side, then bishop to e5, as we saw, is simply working. Now again, you cannot do anything. It's simply rook to h7 and then follow it with f7, winning the game here for white. So that's why for bishop to c3, Berserk tried bishop to d5, Stockfish takes it, and now after rook to a8, Stockfish plays now a beautiful move, I would say, queen to c2. Preventing queen to f5, because queen to f5 is the only defensive move that is working here for black. You could maybe rush here with rook to g6, and suddenly after queen to f5 and rook to h6 and here queen to g5, this is actually a draw. It's actually not winning anymore here for white. So that's why calm queen to c2, nothing complicated here by white. We have now rook to a3, rook to g6, queen to c8, and now b6, pushing the pawns here, rook to b7, king to e2, improvement of the piece, and now Berserk just gives up now more pieces, queen to c3, queen to f5, but now queen to d3. Again, simplifying the game. We have now e4, Stockfish goes here, we have now trays of queens, and after a couple more moves, the position really was over. g6 is finally coming through. We have now check by Berserk, but it's only prolonging the game. After a couple more moves, Stockfish plays even here the fastest way how to checkmate black. Plays now rook to h1, and after king to f8, we have now rook to h8, an amazing checkmate against black's king. So oh, this was epic and this was amazing. This game was actually suggested to me by one of my viewers from this TCEC competition. Thank you guys for suggesting me this game. We will try to cover somehow also the World Chess Championship and also some great games from this TCEC competition. I think I managed to do it, but this was so far, in my opinion, the best game from the TCEC season 27. I think it really fits into the immortal category. This early piece sacrifice just to somehow push all of the pieces of blacks away, very spectacular. And with this win also, we have to mention Stockfish is now in the lead. Leela C0 is now on the second place of the TCEC Premier Division. If nothing dramatic changes, we'll have again the grand final, the super final between Stockfish 17 and Leela C0. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. I really needed this one after really quite not spectacular game, I would say, between Ding and Gukesh today in an exchange variation of the French. I hope that you enjoyed this one. I hope that this game made your day. Really immortal game by Stockfish 17. So if you want to see some other really great spectacular chess games like this, check out our commented chess games played by computers. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, hit also the subscribe button. See you soon with some more videos, and what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.